So, Coco, welcome. I'm going to read a quick bio of who you are. I'm so excited that you were joining us today. Coco Rogers went from serving as a naval officer to navigating the complexities of civic innovation and entrepreneurship. Coco has led teams through every flavor of chaos. I love that. She guides leaders through her CARE framework, which we will talk about later. And CARE stands for clarity, authenticity, recognition, and empathy, a system designed to return teams to courage and integrity. And Coco believes the burnout that we see today isn't a workload problem, it's a human problem born from a lack of direction and connection. So, Coco, welcome. Thanks for being here today. And I shared with Coco before we started the recording, if you're watching this, I'm looking to the side because I'm looking to my notes. I'm having some printer issues. If you're listening to this, ignore what I just said. So, Coco, really interesting. You went from a naval officer to civic innovation to founding Coro Consulting, CORO. What was the moment that you sort of felt like the maybe more traditional path or even the military path wasn't going to work for you?
Yeah, so I started my career as a naval officer. I was commissioned in May of 2000. I did ROTC, which is the Reserve Officer Training Course. So I went to the University of Mississippi. I was a regular college kid. And then once a day or once a week, we kind of played Navy. We put our uniform on. And then in the summers, I would go and I would travel around the country and figure out what it is that I wanted to do once I was commissioned. And so I served for 4 years. So I kind of did my time. I loved it. It was an incredible experience, got out and then from there, got more into the marketing operations and the tech space. And it was last year, 25, where I finally started listening to my soul.
Mm.
She had been talking to me for a long time, and I kept trying to put myself in boxes that I did not belong in. And so I was the vice president of operations for a health tech agency. I adored the people I worked with. It was a fully remote team. I really got to do what I do best, which is to bring in this just culture based in trust, culture based in honesty and vulnerability. And I was there for 1 year. And finally I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
I want to go work for myself.
yeah.
What I realized is that the amazing work that I got to do at this company where I revitalized our culture, I came in, again, amazing humans, but there just wasn't a lot of trust. There was a
Mm.
lot of, a fully remote team. I don't know if you have experience working
Oh, yeah.
fully remote. I love it. I think it's the future, right? I love it. And it is so difficult to connect as a team when you
Yeah.
don't actually feel in person energy. And so I came in and I brought my own full authentic self to the team and really created a place where the team could show up as themselves. And we were thriving. And that's where I had this moment. And I went, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life for other people. And so it was 1 year to the day that I had started. I gave them my 2 weeks notice. I was like, y'all have been great. It's an amazing experience, but I'm going to go build my own thing. And so I launched Coro Consulting May 13th of 2025, which was 25 years to the day that I was commissioned as a naval officer.
No
It
way.
was
Wow.
so beautiful. The timing was perfect. And I was like, this is a full circle moment. And I actually came up with the CARE framework that I know that we'll dig into
Yeah.
based on some advice that my dad gave me. He was also a naval officer. He served our country for 30 years and he retired the year that I was commissioned.
Oh,
He actually swore me in. So
oh, that's
he
cool.
he was the one who did the swearing in ceremony. And the piece of advice he gave me was always take care of your people. And that is what really triggered me to just focus on the care part of what I'd been taught in the military.
And we will dig into care a little bit later. Can you talk about the leadership that you learned in the Navy and in the military and what you decided to keep and maybe some things that you decided to leave behind or unlearn?
Yeah, I am so grateful that the foundation of my professional career was in the United States Navy because I was taught that standard operating procedures are important. There is a way to do things and they must be documented. I fully understand the power of training. I learned very early. I was commissioned at the age of 22. That is a baby. Now that I'm almost 50, I'm like, that is a baby. But I realized that it is so important to really know your job and to be ready and to be constantly training, practicing for when the time comes to actually do the mission that you signed up to do. I also learned about trust. Because if you don't trust your team, if you don't trust your chain of command, or if the people that you are leading don't trust you, people could die, right? I mean, I talk about the difference between my time in the Navy is if we missed a deadline, lives are at risk,
Right,
versus when I was in the tech space, we missed a deadline and investors were unhappy because they didn't get their product launched.
right.
And so the foundation was really, really powerful. What I have learned to release is the black or white thinking. When you are on a warship, and I was on the USS Grace Hopper, named after one of the first women admirals in the United States Navy.
Cool.
She was the mother of the Cobalt language. It's a math coding language. Grace Hopper was just an exceptional woman. And so when you are on a destroyer in the middle of the Persian Gulf, where I was actually a combat veteran during Operation Enduring Freedom. If someone answers an order or a question with maybe, people could die.
Mhm,
It is yes or no. It is left full rudder, right full rudder. It is black or white. And
mhm,
there is a place for black or white. But I was living my whole life, black or white,
mm.
yes or no. And I realized the world is gray. It's totally gray,
Yeah,
right? Once you get out of that war zone, once you're off of
right.
that ship, the world is gray. And so I had to do a lot of unlearning around this binary thinking. I took my leadership training with me into my civilian life, but I kept thinking, why are people so wishy washy? And it was driving me crazy. I was like,
Right, right,
oh, that's nuance.
right.
That's pausing. That's what civilians are allowed to do because lives aren't at risk. And so I really had to rewire my brain to realize that the world is not black and white and that it is incredibly gray. And that really being a great leader is being able to navigate the gray space.
Yeah. And I would imagine that also being a great leader is knowing when it's black and white and when there's gray space and understanding the difference and the ultimate potential outcomes of both. And again, I'm glad you were talking about lives and literally people living
Yeah.
or dying. One of the things that I talk about a lot is look, just get started. Go. Stop with perfection. I'm not talking about doctors doing spine surgery. I'm not talking about situations that you were in. I'm talking about, like, send the email without rereading it 5 times. That's a different
Exactly.
situation.
Right. Like
Um,
launch your program,
yeah,
test the
like,
thing.
no,
Yeah.
it's that's a lot different than launching
A
a mi
missile.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
those are very different things, and one of the things is you talk about the Crumb culture. You coined that term. Can you talk about what that is and how it shows up in organizations?
Yeah. So when I decided to start my own company last year, I reached out to a friend and a brilliant brand marketer, a woman named Olivia Thomas. And I said, I don't know how to do this by myself. I know enough to know that I want to start a company and I want to focus on culture and leadership. And I want to guide humans to take better care of ourselves so we take better care of people. But I needed an expert. And so Olivia walked me through her process. And it really took us like probably 6 weeks to get
Mhm.
through this. And she asked a lot of questions and pulled a lot out of me. And what we ended up coming up with, and I give Olivia the credit, she came up with the word crumb culture. What we came up with was this idea that we have been conditioned in both our personal and professional lives to accept crumbs. And those crumbs professionally look like pizza party Fridays, ping pong tables, kegs, we'll pay for your health insurance, free yoga class. All of these things, they're perks. I'll
Yeah.
take all of them
Sure.
except for the keg. I don't care about that anymore. But
Yeah.
like, sure, please pay for my healthcare, pay for my gym membership, fly me out once a year for the retreat in Arizona. Great. But that's not culture. Those are simply perks. When we stop accepting crumbs, we realize that we've really been starving. And I say, once we step away from that crumb culture and we back up and we go, no, 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 I deserve a lot more. I deserve more in my professional life and my personal life. I want the whole damn pie. And I've gone even further. I want the whole pie. I want the table that the pie is on. I want the warehouse that it's made in. And I want the entire industry that makes every pie.
Mhm.
That's what we're worthy of. We live in a system. We are operating in a system that is keeping us small and it's keeping us attached to things that we think are keeping us safe, but they're not keeping us safe. They're keeping us starving.
Yeah. And small. And I'm 43. And so I entered the workforce in 2005 and the nonprofit space, but I worked at a university and I worked with alumni, so I got to visit, like, these corporate spaces, and that was the rise of the campus, like, the actual corporate campus, so the Google campus, the Apple campus, and it was like everybody thought it was so amazing that there were beds there and you could just eat there and you never had to leave there, and I was like, "Oh my god, you never have to leave here. This isn't a perk, like, this isn't a great thing." And at the time, I thought it was really cool that there was, like, kegs and alcohol and whatever. Now I'm like, "Why are we drinking at work? Why are we
Right?
anyway, so that's so interesting, this mindset shift of what you think is a perk is really keeping you in a state of lack and or keeping you somewhere to extract every bit
Yeah.
of you for the workplace. But I can see where I can see where leadership could
Mhm.
think like, "Hey, the pizza party is really a great thing." How do we buy into crumb culture as leaders and thinking we're doing a good thing? Like, how does that show up? And then what does it actually do to the culture that I think it's leaders are trying to be really well intentioned about?
Yeah. Yeah, I've done the same thing, right? Like, I've done, "Here's a gift card for working Saturday,"
Yeah,
like, because we didn't have the money for anything else, right?
right.
It's because we've been conditioned to think this is the only way. And
Mhm,
the modeled behavior, so I'll be 48 next week, so I'm Gen X, trained by mostly older Gen X's and then boomers. The modeled behavior that we have is only what they have given us,
mhm.
which was work really, really hard and just be grateful for having a job. Because if not, I'm just going to go hire somebody else. You're replaceable. I'm not going to get too political here, but I'm a very political
It's
person and
okay.
it's
Well, our
incredibly
existence
important.
is political, so go ahead, it's fine.
Yes, great. And then I think people started thinking we were calling it woke, like, "Oh, we should be nice to people because people are woke now." Well, yes, we are. We are waking up to realizing I don't wanna be treated that way.
Right,
And so because they hadn't been trained, also that generation didn't have access to therapy. They didn't really have access to the tools that we have right now, the technology,
for
the
sure.
internet,
Yep,
right? So I always try to remind people it's not our fault. It's just the lived experiences of the generations before us.
sure.
So what we've done is we've come in and layered thinking, okay, we'll throw you a pizza party and we'll have that yearly retreat and we'll send you a nice Christmas bonus, thinking that that's going to make up for this. Really, it's a lack of culture. We actually have to just destroy the entire system. Like, we have to build differently and build better, and that means new leadership. It means diverse leadership. It
Mhm.
means, a lot more leaders who look like you and me and who are Black women
Yep,
especially, and people of color. Like, we have been led mostly, and even to this day in the year 2026, 85% of corporations are still run by white men. Like, we just have to build it completely different. And so for me, it's that empowering of people to say, no more crumbs. Like, stop feeding me crumbs. Stop piling a pizza party on. If the culture's not there, if I don't feel like I trust my manager or my team doesn't trust me because I'm a middle manager and I don't trust my leadership team, you cannot actually build a culture.
yeah. Yeah, and I've been guilty of falling into I always say, like, I'm an elder millennial, like,
Mhm.
I'm sort of in that I was always around older Gen Xers most of my life, and I came into the workplace with either elder millennials, Gen X as sort of my supervisors and mentors, but the system was definitely, like, boomer. And I worked at on university campuses, which were wonderful places, but as I grew into leadership, to your point, maybe we need to blow this up some more and deconstruct this more. I have gotten to places where I'm trying to build this culture of democracy and boundaries, and I'm going to have the happy hour after work with lots of different options, and you don't have to go. And the parents that need to go and pick up their kids, awesome. But if you need to go to kickball practice, awesome. Like, I don't just get your work done kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I have often found myself at tension, and I think I have failed in some of these experiences where I'm like, "Oh my god, can everybody just work hard and stop complaining?" Like, I think sometimes there becomes a tension like that. So I feel like I am the leader that is trying but failing and
Mm.
maybe creating a crumb culture without recognizing it because there's this tension of like, we've got to get this work done.
Right.
And I want people to like coming to work. I want people to feel supported, but at the same time, like, oh my God, sometimes it's like too many emotions and feelings that get into the workplace. I don't know if there's a question there, but can you respond to that? Or are there types of leaders that you see that maybe are creating a crumb culture and not realizing like they're the Michael Scott of the workplace? Maybe that's a better way of explaining it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm a huge Office fan, so you
Yeah.
are speaking, one of my love languages.
Great.
You mentioned earlier, you definitely weren't intending to be this way,
Mhm.
right? There's always the intention and the impact, and I think
Yeah.
it's so important as leaders that we realize that we are operating every human is operating based on our own lived experience.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important to start asking for help and asking for support and asking for other people's perspectives when trying to solve some sort of culture problem. But this also starts with us really doing some unlearning, like realizing just because we were taught a certain way, or because our first job, our second job, whatever was this way, that does not mean we have to continue down that path. I think a lot of the corporations that we're seeing who are deeply aligned with the American government right now, and they are living from this fear based mindset and they don't care about people. They only care about profit. And so when we start to unwind and unlearn why we're acting a certain way, that's the only way we can show up better. So it's asking for help. If you're in a position to, if you're on a leadership team, ask for a budget for training, right? For coaching. We've got to come up with a better word than coach, but for
Oh my
now,
God. Yes.
and
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a coach, but I don't know what else to call it.
I'm a coach and I'm like, well, it's not guide, it's not advisor. I'm not really a mentor. I don't know. It's yeah, I'm
I
with you.
cannot figure it out. I
Yeah.
will. We will figure it out.
Well, I was in a program for philanthropy where it was coaching and it was group coaching and
Mhm.
individual coaching alternated month by month. And what was so beautiful about it was it took the weight off of my supervisor, who had a staff of like 25 of us,
Mhm.
where they got some relief so that their one-on-ones could be structured differently. And then for those of us as fundraisers could go in and be like, I don't want to bring this up for my boss, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this situation. And it was so freeing. So that idea beyond like conferences, coaching as
Yes.
training is so useful. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No,
Yeah.
it's so, so powerful. So you've gotta learn how to ask for help, though.
Yes.
That's being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I was not taught in my young career to be vulnerable. If I were to
Mhm.
walk up to my lieutenant and say, "I don't know what I'm doing. I need help."
Right.
I mean, I just can't even imagine doing that because that is not the military is not a place to be vulnerable. And so I had to unlearn the lie that I told myself that I was weak and stupid. I really genuinely thought I was dumb because
Mhm.
I didn't have all the answers. Once we just accept ourselves as these amazing human beings that we are, we don't have all the answers. There's no humanly way to ever have every answer ever. Now we have robots. Let the robots come up with some of these answers for you. So it's vulnerability. Like we have to be able to ask for help. The other thing that I talk a lot about is middle managers. So when you start working for a company, it really doesn't matter if it's a five-person company, 500, 5,000. Most companies have a solid onboarding
Mm.
process. And if you don't, then you're probably not going to be in business long. But those first 30, 60, 90 days, you feel like my hands are being held. I've got my onboarding buddy. I've got my employee handbook. I have 90 days to ask all my questions. Well, I'm a smart person. I show up, I do my job. A year later, I'm promoted to a middle manager because I'm really good at my job.
Right.
No one trains me how to be a people leader because at the age of 22, I had a division of 25 people I had to learn how to lead. Now, I learned how to lead in the military. Again, very black and white. I still had to learn how to pivot my leadership style to manage people as I got into the civilian world. We don't train middle managers. We must train humans to be guides for other humans. And it takes most importantly the authenticity to show up as your human self and go, this is who I am. These are the skills that I have, but I could really use some support with X, Y, and Z.
And I think that is such a crucial eh, gap that we're seeing in terms of individual contributors to then a manager. And you nailed it on the onboarding. If you're onboarding as an individual contributor, that is very different than management. And having that training and identifying individuals that maybe they'll be a leader in your organization, maybe they won't and go off to lead somewhere else, but having that mentality of this is a value of our organization, of our corporation. And what does leadership mean to your organization?
What is it not only what does leadership mean, but how do I wanna show up every
Yes.
day?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And performance reviews. We've been, conditioned to think as long as you get your once or twice a year check-in, you get your performance review, maybe you get a 360 where other middle managers who also haven't been trained on how to lead people we're all evaluating ourselds. That's just a
Mhm.
wild, wild west right there. It's just a whole system that honestly was created for most humans to fail in. Most humans are not made to work in corporate America because it was created for and by white men. White men have very few obstacles to walk through in this world because it was built for them. So especially if you are a white man leading anyone who is not a white man, you have no idea what that lived experience is. And it's not your fault because guess what? You were born a white man. Great.
Yeah.
You have to understand that someone who is a woman, who identifies as a woman, who is a person of color, who is someone who's LGBTQIA, like
Mm.
anyone who is not a white man in this country, especially now, is basically marginalized.
Right.
You do not understand what safety feels like
Yeah.
because you are automatically safe because of who you are.
Yeah. It's
And so that's the blueprint. It's just not a template. It's
it
not sustainable.
it's not sustainable, and it is a template that so many of us try to shift and bend and mold ourselves into, and then even if you do the best job ever and you are now the prototype of white male corporate businessman,
Yep.
you're not showing up authentically. You are now at odds
Mhm.
at yourself, so it's never
Exactly.
going to work. And I was just talking to Gladys DeCluet about this. She was the first woman and oftentimes the first Black woman in corporate roles that she was in. And she led with authenticity and she led with who she was and she led with her values. And she didn't try and be someone she wasn't. And she was wildly successful. And it took a while, but that success spoke for itself eventually.
I wanna go back to what you were talking about, like contorting yourself to fit into
Yeah,
these boxes. That's what I did as a naval officer,
sure.
and I was the number 1 junior officer on my ship. My division was the number 1 division. If there was an award or a recognition, we got it,
Hmm.
and I was so miserable inside. I
Hmm.
was deeply depressed. I was addicted to alcohol. I
Hmm.
was addicted to chaos, and I was addicted to food. All of these things basically numbed my emotions for many, many years, and I had no awareness of it because that is the behavior that had been modeled for me. Go do the thing, and as long as you're great, oh, you're not only are you great, I was exceptional,
Yeah.
and I was dying inside.
Yeah.
And then it took me I've got a daughter, she's 18. It really once I became a mom, I started seeing a lot of unhealthy habits that I was
Hmm.
ready to release. But it was only 3 years ago, it'll be 4 years ago this year, my family had a mental health emergency with my daughter, and it woke me up to a lot of really unhealthy behaviors that I had to let go of. I released alcohol 7 years ago, which was massive for me and just getting clarity, right? And
Yeah.
just saying like, "Okay, I'm not numbing this pain anymore." I'm very grateful that I have had access to therapy. I hope that we live in a place where everyone gets access to therapy because it is life-changing. But I have also built this toolkit with me, and I understand what I need when I need it. But I am almost 50 years old, and
Yeah.
I am just figuring this out. It was like my mid-40s is when I just was like, "Whoa." And so where I see so much hope is that we do have a younger generation, millennials, Gen Zers coming into the workforce, and they do have higher standards for themselves. Now, Gen Xers and boomers want to call it high maintenance, right? And that's a whole thing. Many things can be true at the same time. But when a workforce says no more crumbs, and leadership doesn't pivot to meet that, they will ultimately they will not be successful.
And I wanna talk about this for a little bit more. Both of us are white women. We're 5 years difference, which can be a lot in terms of age, but around the same age. And when I was at, my high I wouldn't say my highest performance point, but probably highest output, like, just people were like, "Wow, she's amazing." Um, my marriage was falling apart, but we didn't talk about it. I was absolutely abusing alcohol, and I didn't realize it. I had 2 little kids, and I never saw them. I got them up in the morning, I dropped them off, I went to work, I came out, pick them up, and then they go to bed at an hour. I didn't love that. So what did I do? I dug into all the things that were getting me praise. And
Mm,
so I didn't have time to explore anything else because I'm gonna take every opportunity I can at work. I'm gonna take all the travel gigs. I'm gonna do all of these things because then I don't have to deal with all of that.
yeah,
And once I just get this next promotion, it'll be better. Once I just get this title, it'll be better. And for anybody who sees some of themselves in anything that we're talking about, get off that track however you can and as slowly as you need to, right? It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but the past year and a half, I've talked about this a little bit. The past year and a half has been the saddest year of my life
mm,
and the best year of my life. And what I mean by that is I was able to access therapy in a different way to deal with grief. And there were
yes.
so many points of grief in my life that I couldn't access because my whole life was about my worth was related to what I produced. And the way that I operated in the world was in a system that was not built for inclusivity. And so if any of that resonated with you, like, you are not alone,
You are
and it's
not
taboo to
alone.
talk about. It is taboo because you know what happened too, and I make a point of this. I had little kids, I was drinking way too much,
Mm,
way too much. But guess what? I could hang with the guys. And I could hang with the CEOs, and they fucking loved it. They
yes.
loved it. And the moms looked at me and were like, "Mommy juice, just
Oh,
need to get home. It's wine time."
oh my
And
god.
culture supports that. And
Yes.
I do drink. I am not a sober person. I will not drink when I'm sad. I will
Mm,
go into certain events and I will
mm,
not drink because I wanna remember the conversations we had, So, like, I really had to redefine my relationship with alcohol, but there were so many negative, destructive behaviors that were celebrated and
yes.
got me further in life, and it is messed up. It is so
It's
messed
crumb
up.
culture. Love, it's crumb culture.
Yeah,
Every
yep,
single thing you just talked about
yep,
is crumb culture. They want to keep us small,
yep,
drunk,
yep.
don't
Thin,
remember,
yep, you
thin.
better get your hair done the right way, you
Yes,
wanna look the right way, Botox, I mean,
all of it,
baby.
all of it,
Yeah.
right? I read a book called Quit Like a Woman.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So this was 7 years ago. I had just turned 40. Yeah.
Mhm,
My soul was like, "Girl,
mhm,
it's too much. It's too much." And alcoholism runs in my family.
mhm,
Lots of people in my family have been to rehab.
mhm,
And I just woke up one morning and my soul said to me, "We're not gonna do that.
mhm,
We're not going to rehab," because I was real close. I had just started a new relationship with my now husband. We've been married 5 years, together 8. And we were both drinking a lot together. He had gone through a divorce, second marriage for both of us, tough divorces. I think every divorce is tough.
mhm.
I don't know anyone who's had an easy divorce, I'll just say it that
Yeah.
way. And we were drinking to excess every night. And so I looked at him and I said, "I'm gonna quit drinking." And he didn't in an unkind way, like, go, "Huh," but he was like, "What?" Because I mean, I was not such a transparent open book. I was
Yep.
drinking easily by myself, 2 bottles of wine a night, not
Mhm.
glasses,
Yeah.
bottles.
Yeah.
On a weekend, man, the 2 of us could knock out 3, right? And so I said, "Yeah, I'm just not gonna drink anymore." And that was December 28th of 2019, and I just have never had a drink. I just was like,
Wow.
"I'm never drinking again." But I did pick up that book. My intuition had told me to buy her book. I wasn't ready to read it, but I did read that book because what it did is it told me it's not my fault. She talks so much about how women, especially mothers, we are marketed to. We are victims of this drinking culture that says moms have to have wine
Yeah.
to be good moms, right? And I fell for all of it. But once I started understanding it and the way she wrote it was just so powerful, I was like, once you tell me like the system is making you do that way, I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm getting out of it. Right. So
Alright.
I like
Gen
had to
X. Yeah.
finally do
Yeah.
whatever it took. But for anyone who might be struggling with
Yeah.
any kind of addiction, right? I released alcohol and food. Those were my 2
Yeah.
addictions. I had to realize how much I had been conditioned by society and also my family. That is just how we dealt with things,
Mhm.
right? And it's crumb culture because all of that keeps you small. Now,
Yes.
if you're the type of person who can totally, like my husband, he didn't quit drinking. He can go, he'll have 1 beer, he'll go have a nice craft beer when we go out
Yeah.
to dinner, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't just have 1 drink
Yeah.
ever,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I think I'm talking to the people who can't just have 1 drink. Just know that it's not your fault.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is part of this crumb culture that it wants us to stay complicit. Think about it, when you're hungover, you're not at your best. Also, when you're drunk or you're hungover, you eat crappy food. I would just shove fried food into my body every day because I was so hungover when I woke up every morning.
Yeah.
So it was this vicious circle.
Yeah.
So I became a vegan 4 years ago. I released dairy because it was
Mhm.
really inflaming my body and I felt so much better. And then my soul was like, I think it's all animal products. And so I just let go of all animal products. And so now I just live a clean lifestyle. Like I don't drink. I don't eat anything that has any animal products in it, and I'm mostly refined sugar free. Like
Mhm.
every once in a while, I'm gonna get a nice, lovely vegan cookie, but most
Yeah.
of the time I get my fruit, my sugar and stuff just naturally. Once I started living this clean lifestyle, I have a level of clarity that is incredibly dangerous to systems that keep us small.
Yeah.
I am going in and just literally stabbing this crumb culture and saying, "No more crumbs."
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to talk about it because we're not alone.
Yeah.
We are not alone. And it's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
work. It's hard breaking free from systems that you've lived in your whole life. But once we have the awareness, it's almost like you can't look back,
Right.
right? We
Yep.
can't look back. We've got to do something. We've
Yeah.
got to do something to change the system.
Yeah, and I always describe it as like it's a returning to yourself. It's a returning to yourself of when you were just a child and that pure joy and you weren't worried about any of this, right? You were living in this sort of state of flow in many ways. And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not our
our
yeah,
nervous systems were not being bombarded with the junk that we're
yeah.
now bombarded with.
And think about it when you're a little kid, it's like, I'm a doctor, I'm a bird, like whatever.
I'm a
Truly
fairy.
believe you are capable and worthy of everything. And when you can get back to that, I think one of the things that was difficult for me was starting to deconstruct this, starting to understand like, wait, do I even like this? It's all a process. And look, if you want to eat fried
Mhm.
food, awesome, go for it. But don't look at it in the whole sense of the
Yes.
picture, right? You want to get Botox? Awesome, great.
Oh,
But do you feel bad about aging a
mhm.
natural process? Like, and who taught you to feel bad about it?
The patriarchy did,
Right.
right?
And so
Yes.
it's one of these things where deconstruct it and know that you're in control of your ability to make good decisions for yourself and decisions that are still kind and caring for the community as a whole as well.
And it starts with you.
It
It
starts with you.
starts with how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
When you are kind to yourself and you speak with love and compassion to yourself, you naturally
Yeah.
do that with other people. I went from being a very angry, conservative Christian,
Mhm.
very angry military, right?
Mhm.
Ooh, that's a trio is very I'm sure there's a lot of statistics behind it
Yeah.
that somebody who is deep into and I was a Southern Baptist, right? Like
Mm.
very traditional. Then you add military, and then generally my family's from the South, so we're Southern conservative, right?
Yeah.
I went from being very, very angry all the time because I was just fed this information to starting I was thinking for myself, and I started going, "Whoa, wait a second." I remember Googling my daughter was born in '07, and I Googled, "What's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?" Because I was raised in a Republican house, and I just kept
Yeah.
being a Republican, and that was '08, it was when President Obama ran the first time, and I was like, "Oh, what? I actually have very progressive values." I had
Yeah.
just never had any modeled behavior to
Yeah.
realize that there's many ways of thinking. And so it was that deconstructing, it was peeling back the layers. But the hardest work I did was truly falling in love with myself
Yes.
exactly as I am. I used to cover myself in makeup. I've lost 50 pounds in the
Mhm.
past 5 years from releasing alcohol and
Yeah.
animal products. And I'm like, I feel strong. I'm strong. I'm
Yeah.
healthy. I'm in perimenopause. This is a whole fun journey, right?
Yeah. Super
But I
fun.
finally found a nurse practitioner who can guide me through that process. Once I fell in love with myself, I stopped dyeing my hair. And again, dye your hair if you want to.
Totally.
I do not care. But for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I was doing all these things to look a certain
Correct.
way. I was just like the removal of body hair,
Mhm.
the societal norms and standards for women, as I started peeling back, realizing that they were coming from this very patriarchal, dangerous perspective, I was like, I'm just not doing it anymore. That is when my whole life lit up because I show up with authenticity. And that's the energy that's all the universe wants from us.
Yeah.
That's all she asks is to
Yeah.
be authentic.
And the fact that you and I can sit here today and have businesses of our own and checking accounts of our own and credit cards of our own and the right to vote and all of this came from people who love themselves. And so let's give,
You weren't
let's
afraid to get loud,
weren't afraid to get
right?
loud.
Yeah.
And were there missteps along the way? 100%. But it was people who stopped, to your point, stop accepting crumbs
Yes.
and didn't care if someone called them something nasty because they knew who they were.
Yes. It's
And
powerful. It's how
yeah,
we change the world. Falling
yep,
in love with yourself is the first step, I genuinely think, into not being judgmental towards anyone else.
yeah, yeah,
Even when you deeply disagree with someone, even
yep,
when someone's behavior is appalling, and we are
hmm,
watching this happen everywhere, I don't judge them. I used to judge them.
hmm,
Now, I just put my hand on my heart and I send them love
hmm,
because they need love, because someone who loves themselves would never do what a lot of our leaders are doing right now, and
yep,
that's crumb culture, and it's keeping us small.
yep.
I ran for office, so I live in Tennessee. I live in a big town now. Franklin, it's right outside of
Oh
Nashville.
yeah, yeah,
We're conservative. I'd
yeah,
say it's 60-40. When I ran for state representative in 2016. So Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton are at the top of the
yeah.
tickets. 25 women around the state of Tennessee, we were all recruited to run against incumbents, Republican incumbents who had never had anyone run against them. I got my ass whooped. I got 29% of the vote, but what I did is I raised $75,000 as a first-time candidate, and another woman named Holly also ran, and we blew people's minds. She got her ass whooped just like I did. But we blew people's mind because we were not afraid to try. We started the blue wave. Here we are 10 years later, and we have shifted so dramatically in this county alone. All eyes are on us watching what we're doing. And I tell people someone has to be the first.
Yeah,
I knew I wasn't going to win. The
yeah,
math wasn't mathing,
yeah.
but I did it anyway. And then I ran again in 22 for a different position. So my first one was state representative. The second was county commissioner, so a little bit smaller of a seat, but I only lost by 217 votes.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
And I didn't care what people said about me.
Mhm.
I was called a lot of things. Imagine being a progressive liberal woman running,
Yeah.
right? I actually have a folder of incredibly unkind notes that
Mhm.
they mailed them.
Can
These
you
people
imagine? Can you imagine taking the time to like
You
mail
you
someone?
cut my article out of the Tennessean, you wrote something awful on it, and then you mailed it. You used money. You used a
Yeah.
stamp on me, but I've kept them. I have them in a folder, and, one day I'll probably hang them in my office, with my multi-million dollar company, just as a reminder
Yeah.
that, when we allow people to keep us small, that's when we lose.
Right. And your journey, while there could be perceived failures in it, are such wins. If you can have these conversations and you can live authentically, even when you have perceived failures at times,
Yeah.
there can be wins along the way. And I do want to get back because I think a lot of this actually does get into this care framework. So can you define that again and then kind of
Yeah.
go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I started my consulting company, I knew that I wanted to bring heart to leadership and to culture. And I actually had coffee with a woman who was a keynote speaker who I just was very drawn to. She lives in my town, and I'm telling her about how I'm coming up with this idea, and I was calling it regenerative. See, I can't even say the word. Basically saying like we have got to rejuvenate and go back to a better way of leading. This woman did not know me from Adam. We literally just sat down for coffee, and she goes, she had not Googled me. She did not know where I stood politically. She didn't know anything about me. She said, I'm pretty middle of the road. I'm a moderate, but what I'm hearing from you, and I'm not getting this energy from you, it sounds a lot like MAGA. Like you want to
Mm,
make something great again. And I went,
interesting.
no,
Yeah.
like that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. First of all, like she's a very authentic person. I said,
Yeah.
thank you. And she said, Coco, that's not it. I'm just letting you know that is not going to get you into boardrooms. It's not going
Yeah.
to get you on stages. She said, keep talking. And I said, okay, well, I've had this thing resting on my heart. When my dad, he commissioned me as a naval officer, and she's like, don't, whoa, you're a naval officer? She's like, lead with that. Lead with
Yeah.
the fact that you've served our country.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, he gave me a piece of advice, two pieces. He said, know your shit and take care of your people.
Yeah.
And she goes, care, make something from care.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I was literally 2 days away from launching my website, and I had everything written in this old framework. And I got home and I redid it all. And I was like, okay, care could stand for a lot of things, but in my 25 years of experience, quarter of a century of experience, I feel like clarity, authenticity, recognition, and empathy are the key to shifting away from crumb culture.
Mhm.
Clarity, we got to figure out what we're doing, and we
Yeah.
have to feel safe to ask for clarity. I'm a Pisces. I am an 8 Enneagram, and I'm a manifesting generator for all the things. I crave the why.
Mhm.
When I have information, I can then feel safe to move forward. And so I'm the friend, I'm the partner, I'm the person in the boardroom going, "I'm just not quite sure. Can you say that differently?" So clarity. So whether I'm coaching or whether I'm doing a keynote or I'm doing a workshop with a company, what in the world are we doing? What are your values? What is your
Right.
strategic plan? Like, let's get deep clarity,
Yeah.
right? Cool. Got it. We're all on the same page. Authenticity. We've talked about it already, but are you showing up as your full authentic self? Do you feel safe to show up as Coco? I have tattoos all over me.
Mhm.
I had an old job before I had really accepted myself fully as who I am. And day one, I wore a fabulous sleeveless. I was like looking great, super sharp, super professional. And my tattoos were showing. I got pulled into HR.
Oh my gosh.
Day 1, I was like, "Oh my god, we don't allow visible tattoos." And so I had to cover myself up, and I stayed there for a couple of years. The mission of this company was amazing, but I didn't get to show up as my authentic self, right?
Right.
And so are we making this place safe to show up authentically? Do you have what it takes in your body to show up authentically? Then we get into recognition. This is something that I learned in the military. You asked early, like some of the things that I left and some of the things that I took from the military. We were really good at recognizing people. Anytime anyone did something cool, we would get them together in the mess hall. If it was a really big deal, the captain would come in. If you got a medal or something happened, like we had ceremonies. We were
Yeah.
so good at recognizing people. One of my jobs, I had literally 5 titles as a young naval officer. One of them was the public affairs officer. This was in 2000. The internet was a thing, but not really. Anytime someone got an award, it was my job to get in touch with their hometown newspaper and get a write up so that
Cool.
their parents could read about them. And I remember feeling this, it was a gift, it was a joy to be the person that got to do that. And when people are recognized for their efforts, they will shine.
Oh
They
yeah.
will show up. They will work hard, right?
Yep.
So there's recognition. Are you recognizing the humans in your life for the great things that they're doing? And are you recognizing yourself for being a badass? Are you recognizing when your energy is off and today needs to be a slow day? There's so much that comes around recognition. And then the E stands for empathy. And I think this is truly like if I could flip it around, the E would come first. Empathy. We must lead with empathy. We must have empathy for ourselves and we must have empathy for other human beings. We are living in a world right now where, from a leadership perspective, from our federal government and corporate America, the big people up top, there is zero empathy.
Yeah.
And look what's happening. People are dying. People are being ripped off of the streets. Concentration camps are being built. I mean, it is awful because there's zero empathy.
Mhm.
And it starts with having empathy for yourself.
Mhm. What is your definition of empathy?
Mm. My definition of empathy is caring about other people when it doesn't have any impact on your life.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not what's in it for me.
Yeah.
It's not. And empathy and sympathy, it took me a long time to really understand the difference between those two. Just because I will never walk in your shoes, I still want to have feelings that I can support you, that I can help you, that I can believe you. It takes honestly, it takes a level of self-awareness to be able to lead with empathy that takes introspection, and it takes, I think, a lot of tough conversations with yourself
Yeah.
because we're very self-centered. Human beings are so
Sure.
self-centered, and all we wanna do is survive. Our brains were created so that the saber-toothed tiger chasing me as a cave person
Mhm.
wouldn't kill me. It's like it's literally how we were created, and we must have the self-awareness to know that we no longer live in caves and that we have got to care about our fellow humans.
Yeah, and even to that example of, like, we are of community, and even though we are in a very individualistic society, that was created back to these ideas of, like, what are we living in? And we are in a very self-centered, individualistic society. We are reeling from lack of community and within community, you were forced to have empathy. So, if you're within the tribe and there's a group of people who go out and hunt, and there's people that garden, and there's people that take care of kids and all that kind of stuff, you have to care. You have to care about the good of the community. And it can be selfishly you have to care, but ultimately the survival of everyone, including yourself, is through an understanding and an empathy and all of these things that you talked about, every single one, clarity, authenticity, recognition, empathy, maybe not recognition as much, but they can be really difficult. Like, I don't want to diminish when people
Yeah.
struggle with this. Like,
Yes.
it can be hard.
Yeah, this takes time. This is deep, deep intentional work.
Yeah.
I talk often about my daily rituals of meditation and
Yes.
journaling and movement that keep me aligned with my own care framework. I walk myself through my own care framework when I'm struggling. Maybe I needed to have a hard conversation with someone in my family. I mean,
Yeah.
no, this is a daily exercise
Yeah.
because we've got to rewire our brains. I want to talk a little bit about community because community to me is a verb.
Mhm. Oh, I
We
love
often, right? We often, and I learned that from a very, very wise Black woman who is a dear friend of mine. She is on the leadership team of a company, or it's a nonprofit in Tennessee called the Equity Alliance. And the Equity Alliance was formed because Tennessee has been known to be, it's a very voter suppressing state, and Black voices were being suppressed. Black voters were being ripped out of our voting files. And it was just a nightmare. And so this group was formed. The woman who started it, she's now a senator in Tennessee. It's amazing. But we had a really bad ice storm last month, and our whole area was just knocked down flat for almost 2 weeks. Our government did not show up for people, but the Equity Alliance did.
Mm.
And Antricia kept telling people, community is a verb. Community is getting out and checking on your neighbor. Community is making twice the amount of food and you just bring it to your neighbor. You don't even ask them,
Yep.
right? And as white women, we have never actually had to do this
Mhm.
because we are protected by white supremacy. And even though the patriarchy hurts everybody, as white women, we are still far more protected
Mhm.
than anyone, right?
Yeah.
Is not protected by their whiteness. We must learn how to truly live in community. And it's just something we're just now figuring out.
Yeah.
We're just, especially with this regime,
Yeah.
this is what we're under right now as a regime,
Yep.
because white people are starting to get murdered,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Black
suddenly
and brown people
impacting them. Yeah.
yeah, Black and brown people have been getting murdered their whole entire existence.
And not only which is horrendous, and not only have Black and brown communities formed community and lived it as a verb, they have been warning us, and by
Yes.
us, I mean, particularly white women, throughout all of it. I
Yep.
mean, a complete understanding of what community means and inclusivity and empathy, like, we haven't been listening.
No,
And
they're
it's
protected.
hard. It's hard to check your power at the door. It's hard to
Yeah,
check the fact that, like, I have participated in this. I'm not gonna get everything right. I always say this, like, I may stumble, call me out on it, like, it's never intentional.
yeah,
And
and
there's a
it's so
lot of work.
important. It's so much work, but it's
Yeah.
the work that must be done
Yeah.
because I genuinely believe that racism is why we are where we are.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of things, but if you
Yeah.
really have to name one thing, it is racism. And it's important for white women, like,
Mhm.
we check each other. We don't ask our Black friends to check us. That is
No,
not their
that's not their
responsibility.
job.
I used to behave that way. I lived in, like, a white savior world,
Mhm.
and I did have a very loving friend who happened to be Black. She called me on it, and she said, "This is the last time. I This is it.
Yeah.
Figure it out from here. You and
Yeah.
your white friends go figure this shit out."
Yeah.
And I did. Anytime I have the opportunity to talk with especially white women, I just always have to remind us that, like, this is the work that we must
Yeah.
do, and if we are going to engage with Black women, we pay them a lot of money, a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
double,
Yeah.
double what their rate is, because it's not their responsibility. It is,
No.
and you're right. They have been guiding us, and it's now our responsibility to do the fucking work.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And, I think the other thing too is, like, if someone's hearing this and they're like, "Yeah, it sounds really great," and you're fired up and you wanna do it, that again, it's difficult work, but it's also that moment of doing it, you can feel scared. And I would just say, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to be scared, and it's okay to start small, and it's okay to just get more involved.
Do it
Um,
scared,
yeah.
scared.
Yeah. And remember, again, checking yourself at the door, there are people who live every day scared. they have no other choice but to keep going. So, like, you can do this. You can,
Absolutely, and check on your neighbors and
yeah,
check on your friends and, like, be the light, right?
yeah,
Be the light because there is darkness in this world, but, we've gotta have the light with the darkness, and we've gotta have the darkness with the light, but also we cannot give up hope.
yeah.
There's an incredible woman named Tricia Hersey, and she wrote a book called Rest is Resistance.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great book. Yeah,
Amazing book. She's
yeah,
an incredible follow on all social medias. But yeah, we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn, and we're doing the work,
yeah,
right? We're doing the work, and we can't be afraid to do it. And we can't be afraid to also realize that we have been conditioned in this system as well. White supremacy and the patriarchy hurt everyone,
everybody. Yeah.
everyone.
One of the things that you also talk about is burnout. Can you talk about that a little bit and how to address it, whether it's in the workplace or personally, however you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about care, I always say I'm guiding humans to take better care of ourselves
Yeah,
so that we take better care of our people.
yeah,
Everything starts with caring for yourself. And we've been conditioned, especially as women,
yeah,
that our roles are to be subservient, that we are to be the last ones to get whatever crumbs are left. And that is a lie. Burnout is is a tool that we have been conditioned to accept that well, you're not going to be successful if you don't work 60, 78 hours a week.
right,
It's just a lie to make a bunch of rich guys richer. So
yeah,
just stop. And what's so important, especially when I'm guiding, I guide a lot of high performing women. We must not feel guilt or shame when we pause to take care of ourselves, when we rest. And that's why I mentioned Trisha Hersey and her
yeah,
work with Rest is Resistance, because ultimately we must rest and we must rest without feeling guilty about it because you can go lay down or take a nap or take a walk or do yoga or whatever it is. Like you
sure,
get to define what rest is for you. But if the whole time in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my God, I have so much to do. And oh, I just feel so guilty. You're not actually resting. This means like shut it off,
yeah,
do it with joy
mhm,
and pleasure. My word for 2026 is pleasure.
mhm,
We are allowed to feel pleasure
mhm,
and free and joy in our bodies. And when we do, we take better care of our people, whether that be our partners, our children, our communities, our company, whatever it is, we cannot truly be successful without burning out if we're not focusing on ourselves first.
yeah,
There's an incredible book by Yasmin Cheyenne called The Sugar Jar.
mhm,
And it's talking about the sugar jar that you have in your pantry. And every time someone comes in and starts, I just need a little tablespoon. I just need a teaspoon. I just need a cup. And if we're just constantly giving our sugar out of our sugar jar, we have nothing left for ourselves.
yeah,
It's an incredible book. She explains it much more depth than that. But it really truly starts by taking care of yourself.
yeah, yeah. When you start, again, looking at all these ways where you are selfish for caring for yourself in a very basic way versus just give and give and give and give. And the more that you give, you're training people that that's what you do. And you have
Yes.
no time left for yourself. Your worth is completely externalized. And that idea of rest and full rest, whatever that looks like for you, that doesn't mean you're making the grocery list in your head. That
Right.
doesn't, all this labor that we do that we don't even think about, and it has to be done, right? Like, these are things that do have to be done, but you deserve the opportunity to fully rest. And back to the community part, who is your community? Who can you say, "Hey, I'm going to yoga. Can you make a grocery list while I'm gone?"
Yep.
Like, you can also rely on other people, be in community. You can define community as whatever you want. You don't have to take all of it on, and that has been the expectation. You do all of it,
All of it.
and
That's why
we
men are the CEOs. That's why men are the politicians,
yeah,
because they have women in their lives doing all of the labor
yeah,
so that they can be that exceptional boss. And I'm making a blanket statement, but it's true,
for sure.
right?
J
And so
historically,
I also always try to think about what behavior am I modeling for my daughter? What behavior am I modeling for my friends, for my family, for my husband? And if I were to live continuously like I used to, where I was very depressed, very anxious, addicted to alcohol, addicted to food, addicted to chaos. Chaos was my best friend. It's because I thought I had to do everything by myself. and I did not understand how to take care of myself. I didn't understand how much my body craved daily walks. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that meditation and journaling could be so life changing. But now that I have these tools, it is my responsibility to model that behavior for other people in my life
Yeah.
because we have to break these cycles. I'm a cycle breaker.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this shit anymore. I'm not. And so once we figure out our path to breaking a cycle, it's so important that we think about who else is watching me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the kids are always watching.
Oh, I know we're like bouncing all over the place, but I do want to think a little bit about like how when you are breaking from culture, when you are using the care model, how do you encourage and sustain courage
Mhm.
in the workplace? And I think we can talk about it personally as well, but I think again, it can be difficult to have that courage. And if as an organization you've decided you are committed to this, how do you sustain it?
Yeah. I think courage is something that we really aren't taught, right? And so, one, you've got to figure out what it means to be courageous. And to me, being courageous is doing something scared, doing something even though you don't have all the answers, doing something even though you might, and I'm going to air quote, fail,
Yeah.
right? Once we understand the power of what courage does to keep you moving forward, the way that we sustain that is by building a toolbox of whatever it is that you need to be able to sustain that courage. So when you fail, because
Yeah.
we're going to fail all the time, when your team doesn't adopt to this, or when you still have to keep having the same hard conversations with a partner, with a team member, whatever it is, you have to be ready and understand what some of these blockers are going to be. And you've got to be ready to have tough conversations. We live in a society where I think we expect life just to be easy and just expect like, "Oh, well, I don't really have to work that hard. Like, it's just gonna happen." That's just not how life is.
Yeah.
You've
No.
got to be ready to have hard conversations. You also have to understand that boundaries are your best friend, right?
Mhm.
You can be courageous and you can also have boundaries to say, like, "This is what I expect. These are my expectations." Let's say we're talking professionally.
Yeah.
Team, we've done the workshop. We've gotten aligned on our strategic plan. You know what your piece of the pie is, right? As your leader, I am here to hold us accountable. And when someone isn't holding up their piece of the pie, or you've got to have that hard performance conversation, you got to be able to put the boundaries in place that say, like, this is what our expectations are, right? And hold people accountable. You're not an asshole when you hold people accountable. The only way human beings change behavior is to be held accountable. Our country is being run by a madman who's never been held accountable before. It's
Yeah.
truly like it's trickle down. And so have the courage to have hard conversations.
Yeah.
If it's a personal conversation, if someone says that they love you, they will be open to a hard conversation. And especially as women, we have been conditioned to stay quiet, to stay small, don't ruffle feathers, be a good girl. That's how you end up getting abused. That's
Yeah.
how you end up getting trafficked. That's
Yep.
how you end up getting murdered. So
Yep.
have the courage to say, you will not speak to me that way. What you just said, I'm not okay with. This is not going to fly in my house, whatever it is. And remember that boundaries, they're for you. The person may not like that boundary, especially people who are trying to abuse you. They never like boundaries,
Oh, yeah.
right? But you've got to have courage to have the hard conversation, do the level set, whatever that is, and then have those boundaries that are going to continue to hold people accountable. This is just like grow up and do the hard shit. Like, truly grow up
Yeah.
and do the things that are hard to do, and my guess is it probably wasn't modeled for you,
Yeah.
depending on how old you are, especially if you're a woman. Think
Yeah.
about your mother and your grandmother. Our grandmothers didn't have access to funds. Our great-grandmothers, they weren't allowed to get a divorce. Didn't matter how awful their husbands were to them. And so if you think about it, that trauma is passed down, that lived experience is
Mhm.
passed down. But once you have the awareness and the tools, it's now your responsibility to break those cycles and do the hard thing.
We often think about much of what you were saying is conflict resolution. And
Mhm.
we think about conflict as uh, you're being mean or unkind, or when you know your values, you can show up exactly as who you are.
Yep.
You can be kind and you can be clear,
Yeah.
clear is kind, but you don't have to be like, you really suck and like tear someone down. That's not what we're talking about here. And so again, I think like lean into when you are feeling scared or uncomfortable, lean into the why. What is that feeling telling you? And how can you rewrite that for yourself? How do you want this boundary conversation to go?
Yes, and you can shift your boundaries. So my old black or white thinking when I
Yeah.
first started understanding boundaries, because I didn't figure out boundaries until my 40s,
Yeah.
I thought I put a boundary, I drew a line in the
Yep.
sand, and then I realized it's much more nuanced than that. First of all, boundaries can be silent. I thought I had to boundary up verbally with everyone in my family.
Yeah.
Occasionally you do. Occasionally it needs to be said. But I then realized, oh, I don't have to say it out loud. I set the boundary. I'm
Yeah.
not going to allow that behavior again. And then I get to decide if I wanna move that boundary, if I wanna remove that boundary. Like,
Yeah.
there's an incredible book by Melissa Urban called The Book of Boundaries,
Mhm.
where it's like a green light, yellow light, red light situation,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
right? Because, people who push your boundaries are gonna push them, right?
Yeah.
Until they figure out they can't be pushed anymore, and so she gives you scripts and how to handle that type of stuff. But what I think is so important for women especially, really all humans, but women, we naturally have a better access to our intuition.
Mhm.
When our body tells us something, not our mind, when our body tells us something, we must listen.
Yeah.
Our mind is a liar. Our mind is a bunch of past trauma and lived experiences that is jumbled up that we start lying and telling stories to. That person hates me. I'm fat. I'm ugly. They think I'm the worst. That is old trauma that we haven't processed being lied to, but your body is telling you. When it's time to do the thing scared or it's time to have that hard conversation, I like to literally put my hands on my heart and I ask my body, how do I move through this? What does this feel like? And then I give myself time. I give myself days to answer those questions. A lot of things come to me in my dreams, and I've figured out how I can kind of figure out the next morning what that dream means. But I ask my body,
Yeah.
how do I move through this? Or do I move through it? Do I need to draw a boundary? Do I feel safe? And then I let my body answer that for me because our bodies do not lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Your body doesn't lie. Think about what you are giving your energy to.
Yes. And
And
you keep scrolling on the internet at all the nightmares that are having right now. Yeah.
100%. But what you said about like boundaries don't have to be verbal. What are you willing to give energy to?
Yes.
And the thoughts in your head, do you want to give energy to a thought in
Yes.
your head that says, well, this is going to fail? Or do you want to give energy to the, okay, let's think about the best case scenario, right? Like, let's be
Mhm.
as prepared as I can. And if I'm going to think of the worst case, let me think of the best case, right?
Yes.
So you really have to decide this for yourself and that shows up. It shows there was a time where, I mean, my shoulders were constantly up to my ears. I mean,
Yes.
constantly. It was
Yes.
crazy. I would stop breathing.
Yes. Oh,
I
I
mean,
I popped antidepressants for 15 years
yeah.
because I didn't have the tools
Mhm.
to actually process any of these
Yeah.
emotions, and then I was drinking on top of the
Yeah.
pills, so, like, it was not
That's
working at all,
good.
right? Like, my body was like, "Please stop."
Yeah.
And once I finally removed those crutches that
Yeah.
I thought I needed, what I realized is that I was making up so many stories that
Yep.
I was a very anxious person. I don't call myself anxious anymore because I'm really not, but I was very, very anxious. Then I realized I get to decide my thoughts. This is mind blowing. You get to decide your thought. When my daughter started driving, this was big for me. She's 18 now. She's had her license. She waited till she was 17. So it's been
Mhm.
about a year and a half. I had a conversation with myself. I thought I could be scared. I could think of all the things that could happen,
Yeah.
or I could be excited. There's a very fine line between anxiety and excitement, and
Yeah.
I now choose excitement. And I just took a deep, deep breath, and I put my hand on my heart, and I said, "She will be safe."
Mhm.
That is the energy that I put in this world. I'm also a magical witch. So
Mhm.
when I say she will be safe, I'm actually putting a protective spell
Yeah.
on my daughter. I put spells on people all the time. I put spells in my laundry as I'm folding our laundry. I love to fold laundry. It's my like
Oh my God, come to my
fun
house.
time. I know everyone's like, "Read." I'm like, I that could be a side hustle for me. Like,
I'll
oh,
vacuum for you. Come to my house and do
yeah,
laundry.
I love folding laundry, but as I fold it, if I'm folding my husband's T-shirts, I'm like, "Keep him safe, let him know he's loved."
Oh, I love
That
that. Yeah.
it's so, so real. Energy is forever, it never goes away. It just
Yeah.
gets composted into the earth and it comes back as something
Mhm.
else.
Yeah.
We get to choose our energy. I don't think energy is woo at all, and I've
Yeah.
actually stopped using that
Yeah.
because when I embraced my power
Yeah.
as an intuitive guide who understands energy, I am
Yeah.
unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I'm learning so much more about human design, about astrology. This shit's been around way longer than we have.
Yeah.
The stars, like we are stardust. So this
Yeah.
conversation started 11.4 billion years ago with the
Right.
explosion of a star.
Right.
It's all real.
Yeah.
And when we embrace it and we use it to guide our professional and our personal lives, it's life changing. 50, 100 years ago, when all these white men were creating all these corporations, they weren't looking at the sky. They were not looking at astrology. They were not understanding the why behind humanity. But we have access to this information now, and we need to use it as
Yeah.
we build.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because empires always had astrologers. And when you look at dates, coronation dates, things of that nature, it is always aligned with astrological happenings. People are like, "Oh, that's cute, whatever." Like, why are babies born under a full moon more? I mean, like, if you believe, and it's science, like, that the moon impacts
Yeah.
tides and, like, women giving birth, like, maybe just be just a little open to it, right? Like,
Okay.
you can choose. But being raised Catholic, it's funny because what you were just describing about laundry and putting that energy intent, that's a prayer. That's a
Mhm.
prayer. You walk
Yep.
out the door and you say, "Please take care of my kitties as they go in and out of the house today, St. Anthony." Or as you walk out of the door, you say to the trees or whatever, "Please take care of my kitties as I'm away." So I don't like using the word woo. I think sometimes people get really like
Yeah.
when you start talking about this stuff, but
Yep.
it's like this is rituals and ceremony are how we our systems and structure. If we want to talk in corporate speak, right? Like it's systems and
Yeah.
structure, and you get to decide for
Yep.
yourself. But when you get to align all of those things together, it's dynamite. I mean, it
Right.
really is.
Just use the tools that we have access to.
Yes.
And it's just so much more available now.
Yeah.
And I think anytime a human being uses whatever tools feel good to them to become the best version of themselves, do it. If that's astrology, if it's tarot, if it's exercise, if it's diet, whatever, like find what works for you. And that's why when I'm coaching people, like I've had a vast transformation. If you were to look at a picture from me from 8 years ago, some people who know me now who didn't know me then are like, "You are lying. That is not you." I'm like, "I promise it is me. I
Yeah.
look like a different person." And so everyone's like, "How did you do it?" Like, "Well,
Yeah.
I know what worked for me,
Yeah.
but I don't make my template is not for I am Coco Rogers. That's
Yeah.
my template. I can give you guidance. I can hold you accountable." That's the biggest thing I do
Biggest
is
thing.
I'm
Yep.
the accountability partner
Yeah.
here, right? But we all know what our bodies need. I have an amazing holistic nurse practitioner named Anna, and she said something to me at one of our earliest visits. She said, "Coco, our bodies always, always want to do good for us.
Oh,
Our
love that.
bodies are always trying to be as healthy and heal as much as possible. So when you feel something, when it's a soreness or an ache or a pain, that's just your body going, hello, please,
Yeah.
please pay attention to me."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, for all those years, I was inflamed. I thought I had arthritis. I was just abusing my body with food and alcohol. And once I released it, I'm like, this is what it feels like to not be in pain every day.
And it's love that idea of like your body is always trying to do the best for you. And as an athlete, and I grew up playing sports, I still run, I coach my daughter's soccer team. It's difficult because there is a difference between pain and injury
Mm,
and understanding that difference. But it's and getting back to your point of like use the modalities that work for you, and they can change throughout your lifetime. Don't feel like there's one
totally.
thing or, first of all, let me just dispel this. There is no one thing that's going to work for everybody. And there's no
Mm,
one thing that's going to work for you, the listener, right now. And you can change it as you go along, right?
totally.
It's the joy of life. Like,
That's the listening to your body part. And
yeah,
so when you get in touch with what your body feels like when it is safe,
yeah,
when our nervous systems are safe, we live in the freest way possible. And then our body will say, ooh, try this. I discovered yoga a few years ago and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
but now my body is saying, I still do yoga. I've got to get my yoga class in because it's so good just to keep me centered.
yeah,
But I'm really looking to build a lot more strength. I'm in perimenopause. I also used to be in the military and
yeah,
I used to be a personal trainer. So I understand very deeply the power of strong muscles and
yeah,
especially in women. So my body has lately been saying, Pilates, go
Mhm.
lift more weights. And so I'm just shifting a
Yeah.
little bit less yoga, more Pilates, and adding a weightlifting class to my weekly routine. And when I'm 50 and 60 and 70, it's all we just have to constantly listen to
Yeah.
our bodies, but we have to trust our bodies. I think that the patriarchy's worst nightmare is a bunch of humans with really highly regulated nervous systems.
100%.
Because when we are regulated and we feel safe, and I said humans, not just women,
Correct.
humans.
Yes.
When we are regulated, when our nervous system is free to focus on joy and pleasure, we do not let fear or
Yeah.
anger or hate or all these really low frequencies, they don't even come close to us.
No.
I heard
No.
someone say, a fellow veteran, we were talking about what's happening right now in Iran, and he's being very vocal about it online, and I've decided I am too. I am a veteran, and I've served in the Persian Gulf during this time, and what is happening right now is just appalling.
Yeah.
And he's getting a lot of people saying, "Watch your back. You're people are gonna come after you." And he said, "I'm a United States Navy veteran. Fear was trained out of me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh." Those of us who can speak up because
Yeah.
we like, fear is not a frequency that even resonates in my body
Yeah.
because it was trained out of me a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Because when shit does hit the fan, you wanna call me because I have
Yeah.
no fear. I
Yeah.
it has been trained out of me, but that's also a safe nervous system where
Yeah.
fear doesn't trigger me.
Yeah. Yeah. And the safe nervous system part of this is you are not constantly diverting your attention so that you meet the standard of the other, whoever the other is,
And who
right?
made that up,
Yeah.
right? Who
Yeah.
made that up? It's all made up.
Yeah.
Everything is made up.
Everything's made up. One of the things that drives me nuts is looking to say, like, who's going to save us or looking to elected leaders that are performing leadership. And I'm like, I hate to tell you, babe, Chuck Schumer's going to send a strongly worded tweet. That's all he's got. So who holds anyone accountable? We get to choose the society we live in. We get to choose the community we live in.
Yeah,
And there's lots of choices.
yeah.
And if you
We're the
don't like what
ones
we're living in, let's start making other
Yeah,
choices.
yeah, we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Yes. Yes, and I don't and as a white woman, I wanna say this as well. That doesn't mean that you have to go be the one.
Right.
You can support people who are already doing the work, and you can
In
support them
fact,
with
that's where you
donations.
start. That's
Yes,
where you start.
exactly. That is
Yes,
where you should start.
yes.
Promote, show up, volunteer, bring food, give money, like,
Yep,
utilize your network.
yes.
Start there. Start in your community picking up trash. Start in your community, volunteering. It's so simple
Yes,
sometimes,
it
but it
is,
is work. It is work.
and every small thing matters.
Yeah.
I talk when people are like, "Oh, how did you possibly run for office? That was big and scary." I'm like, "Maybe you're not the candidate,
Yeah.
but maybe you knock doors for the candidate, or
Yes.
you write postcards, or you give them a donation."
Yeah.
On my walks in my neighborhood, I walk a couple times a day, I just bring a little bag with me, and I just pick up trash. I pick
Yeah.
up the plastic that I know will not get composted into Mother Nature,
Yeah.
and then I put it in a recycle bin, right?
Yeah.
That is a ripple effect that will last millennia,
Yeah.
right? Especially plastic, taking a
Yeah.
piece of plastic and then putting it in a recycling bin where it will be recycled,
Yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
recycling.
Yeah.
But that is a small thing. And if every single person picked up one piece of trash on their
Magnified.
walk, life can be big. It can be overwhelming. And so I really try to guide people, most importantly, take care of yourself, but then think of the small ways that you can help take care of our community and our planet.
And that starting small is what you can control. When we're going back to the nervous system and living in alignment, that's one of your values. And to walk by trash doesn't feel good. And it might seem like such a small thing, but you are now carrying that with you when
Yes.
it's so easy to bring a bag. And so I could talk to you all day, but
I know.
I'm going to ask you this and then I'll ask you my three questions.
Okay.
So you have a blended family, a rescue dog, your high school daughter, you're running a consulting firm, you're doing all these cool things, and it's a lot, but you have Sunday DM dinners.
Yeah.
So tell me about it and why you protect
Yes.
that.
So I live near my family. So growing up, my dad was in the Navy, so we moved all over the place.
Yeah.
But we always came back to Franklin because this is where my grandparents were. And so when I got divorced, when my daughter was 1, I moved back to Franklin because I was a single mom and I needed help. And so that was 17 years ago. And so my family has a tradition called Sunday damn dinner, and it's called that because damn it, you're coming. Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like would you like to be?
yeah.
I will say the older we get and with the kids getting older, it's not nearly as often as we'd like it to be. But my parents live in the house my mom was raised in,
Yeah.
which was the same
Wow.
house that I got to go visit my grandparents in. So my daughter gets to visit her grandparents there. My brother has a daughter. She visits her grandparents there, and it's the same table. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the chair where my grandmother sat and my grandfather
Wow.
sat. It's a tradition, and it's interesting because now my husband and I are vegan. My brother is a massive carnivore. My dad doesn't eat vegetables. So, like, sometimes we have to just bring our own food at this
Yeah.
point, but it's just it's collecting love. It's
Yeah.
bringing our family together, and we also invite friends and neighbors to
Love
come
that.
in, and I have a very, very special family. I know I took them for granted for a long time. I just kind of assumed everyone had a great family, but the older I get and the older honestly, the older my parents get, I just realized, like, God, we are special. Like, we have
Yeah.
a very special energy. So it's prioritizing family. We always show up for each other. My brother's also an entrepreneur, so when he's doing cool stuff, we're always there. When I'm but, my first keynote, my mom and my sister-in-law came because it was for a women's event.
Awesome.
Everyone shows up for the girls, for the grandkids. My parents have 2 granddaughters, and it's magical. It's
That's
absolutely
awesome.
magical. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Once you've been invited and it's
Yeah.
SDD, Sunday Damn Dinner. Once you've been invited to an SDD, the door is always open. My
Open.
parents really do have, like, an open door policy. They're a lovely part of the community in our
That's
town for
awesome.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I am gonna ask you the 3 questions that I ask all of my guests, and the first is, what do you love most about what you do?
I love watching people fall in love with themselves, whether it's in a one-on-one or whether it's even in a keynote. I can see my message resonating and them just take this breath and realize how worthy they are of self-love. It's magical. I have seen it happen with my own eyes.
Yeah, that's special. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Show up as yourself, Coco.
Mhm.
Show up as yourself.
Yeah, that's great. And how can people find you?
My website is Coro Consulting. Courtney Rogers is my name. I go by Coco, my family nickname. coroconsulting.co.
Love it.
Yep, and then I am on Instagram, Courtney Coco Rogers, and LinkedIn. I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, but I am over there. I like to connect there and then peace out.
Yeah, same.
And then I write a weekly newsletter on Substack.
Ooh,
Substack is
cool.
very powerful for my company and for my brand. But yeah, I post a lot of short videos on Instagram, and I'm really starting to see them resonate. I just decide I wanna say something, and I talk for about a minute, and I don't even sometimes know what I'm gonna say, but I know a message needs to be in the universe.
Yeah.
And I'm really starting to see a lot of people resonate with that.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Well, we'll have all of the places on the internet where people can find you. And this has been such a lovely conversation. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Yes. And Threads, we met on
I know
Threads.
we
I gotta give Threads a shout out. It is a magical place. I have met some incredible business owners, but just
Yeah,
humans in general on Threads. And then that's how we connected. I was like,
I
"This
know.
woman's a badass.
Yeah.
Wait, she has a podcast?"
Yeah,
And here I
exactly.
am.
And I think this is a beautiful way to end it of like be open to the universe. We are the universe experiencing itself. Be open to all the joys and wonders.
Yeah,
And again, and I see this all the time, joy can be a single moment. Who knows? We may know each other in 20 years. Who knows? Just be open to it. So
yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Wonderful.
This was
Awesome.
so much fun.
It,
Thank
it was, it was. You can come on anytime and I will see you on threads.
Yes. I'll see you there. Thank you,
Sounds
Meg.
good. Talk to you soon.
Bye.